The most wanted Rwandan genocide suspect will appear in court in South Africa on Friday. The former Rwandan police officer, Fulgence Kayishema, was arrested in the small farming community of Paarl in the Western Cape on May 24th. He is accused of fraud and contravening the Immigration Act for allegedly pretending to be a Burundian national. He applied for asylum in 2000 and then applied for refugee status in 2004. He was captured in a joint operation between South African and United Nations investigators. He's facing charges in the International Criminal Court, including genocide, conspiracy to commit genocide, among others. Let's have a quick chat on this. Joining us is South African investigative journalist Aron Hyman, who was in court during Kayishema's first appearance. Aron, thank you so much for your time. But talk to us. You spoke with Fulgence. What was his demeanor? What was it like speaking to him?
Good evening, Keminni, and good evening to your viewers. He had quite a stoic demeanor. I asked him, what do you think your chances are in defending in defending yourself on these charges, both the genocide charges and the charges being laid against him by the South African government? And he said 100%. Charges are my chances are 100%. I'm gonna win this. He was all smiles. I think he had a Bible with him, which he was, I guess, trying to sort of win over some favor from the people in court with. It was quite didn't feel like a very dangerous man. Obviously, to his victims, that was a very different situation.
Indeed. Now, I want us to talk about other things that you may have spoken to him about. What can you tell us about how he was eventually captured in Paarl?
Yeah, so I mean, Paarl is a small it's a small community like surrounded by picturesque mountains, wine farming community, agricultural town. He had been living there for at least 13 years under a different identity, and quite recently, members of the residual mechanism for the Rwandan tribunal, so that's a UN body that have been looking for Fulgence Kayishema and other Rwandan genocide suspects for quite some time. They started picking up on information that he might be in South Africa. His relatives are here, which was well known to the investigators, but it was kind of a bit of an international sort of mystery that they were trying to solve. Was he in South Africa? Was he in Swaziland or Eswatini? Was he in Mozambique, Botswana? They weren't quite sure exactly where he was, and he had multiple identities really. So it was eventually the investigators from the UN started coming here since last year and started following up on leads in and around Cape Town, and then it happened quite suddenly last week where they actually found out where his location was, pinned him down to a wine farm in Paarl. And they then basically laid the trap and sprung it, thereby capturing him.
Aron, I want to hit you with two questions. What happened at his last appearance in court, and what should people expect tomorrow when he reappears?
During his last appearance, basically they were reading from the charge sheet brought by the residual mechanism. And the residual mechanism, just to make it clear, it's not necessarily affiliated to the ICC, the International Criminal Court as such. Although it is in The Hague and although it is a UN body, it's a placeholder body for the Rwandan Genocide Commission, which wrapped up most of its work in the 1990s. So they set up this residual mechanism to try and find the rest of the people who they haven't found in Rwanda, or who the Rwandan government haven't killed, because there's allegations that the Rwandan government was basically sending hit squads around the continent, specifically to South Africa as well, to kill people who were allegedly involved in the genocide. But basically what happened in court, the charges were read against him: genocide, conspiracy to commit genocide, complicity in genocide, and extermination as a crime against humanity were the charges laid against him. And that had to do with him being involved, allegedly, in torching a church with 2,000 Tutsi refugees, and then helping to bulldoze that church, thereby killing 2,000 innocent people. He also heard that the South African state were preparing to lay charges against him for basically contravention of the Refugee Act in South Africa and the Immigration Act, for him defrauding his way into South Africa.
Right.
And I mean, yeah, I think just one thing to mention about what he said to me, I asked him directly, what do you have to say to the victims of the Rwandan genocide? And he said, it's terrible what happened in the Rwandan genocide. And I asked him what happened, and he said, well, there was a civil war. And I said, yes, what was your part in the civil war? He said, no, I had no part to play in the civil war. I'm just a refugee. And I asked him, a refugee of what? He said, I'm a refugee of war, refugee of the civil war. But he couldn't explain why he then fled to South Africa using all sorts of pseudonyms, why he changed his name, assuming his grandfather's name. So those are naturally things that he's going to have to explain to the South African authorities when they decide on where to extradite him to. And hopefully they won't extradite him to Rwanda. That would be a big mistake. People that I've spoken with suggest that the likelihood that he'd either be killed or receive a very unfair trial there is very high.
I see. Aron, we'll leave it here for now. Thank you so much for your time on the news.